Hi, this is Rick Seymour. I had the privilege of sharing with you the unique and distinct difference that Shaklee creates in the marketplace with an amazing array of products that people use every single day of their lives. In fact, if you look at this list, I think you'll recognize that the majority of these are used in the majority of American households day in and day out. In fact, the average family spends $250 to $300 every month on these types of products. And if all you did was change brands, it could dramatically change your life. Don't take any more money out of your budget, don't add to it, just take the same money you're currently spending and spend it in a different place. Get a superior quality product. It could make a huge difference for you. Because the reality for all of us is that there are better choices than many of us make on a day in, day out basis just because we haven't been as well educated as we would like. So let's start with a little pop quiz. Look at these two labels from products I know you're familiar with, and I highlighted in red those things that are either sugar or artificial. And think from a nutritional perspective, which is the superior product? And I think it's pretty obvious that label B is vastly superior in terms of its ingredients to label A. Because on label A, 20 of the 42 ingredients are sugar or artificial. And label A is advertised as a highly nutritious breakfast cereal. Smart Start, Healthy Heart. Now they can say Healthy Heart on there because it has a little more fiber than the typical breakfast cereal does, but at the same time it's going to give you type 2 diabetes. And here's label B. And unfortunately, quite often we feed our pets better than we feed our kids. And that's the reality in this country. Since 1999, heart disease has increased 10%, cancer 20%, type 2 diabetes 35%, and those are 90 to 98% preventable. It doesn't have to be that way. There's been a 38% decline in the nutrient content of our foods that are available to us. And fast food sales have increased 2,000%. Only 2% of Americans get the recommended servings of fruits and veggies on a daily basis. That means 98% of us are guaranteed to be deficient in our diet. And if you look at the statistics for kids, it's even scarier. For kids between 3 and 14, 70% have elevated cholesterol and 70% are overweight. That's almost a guarantee of adult obesity. And in just the last handful of years, there's been a 39% increase in boys and a 147% increase in girls for type 2 diabetes. That is 100% preventable. It does not have to be that way. 25% of our kids are on prescription drugs, 7% on 2 or more. The number of kids with ADHD has gone from 1 million to 5.3 million in a very short period of time, and more kids between 3 and 14 die of cancer than any other disease. And cancer was relatively rare just a generation ago. In fact, this quote from a medical journal I think pretty much sums it up. This may be the first generation in the history of mankind to have a shorter lifespan than their parents. How scary is that? Well, what the heck is going on? Well, this is what's going on. We've got a whole generation of kids being raised on fast food. In fact, here's a McDonald's burgers and fries that's 6 months old, has never been refrigerated, it never spoiled. Now let me give you a clue. If it doesn't spoil, it isn't food. Here's my pet Twinkie, purchased October 1st, 1986. It hasn't spoiled in 27 years. Folks, these are not food. These are not things that can build health in your body or your kids' bodies. And think about what lifestyles are like today. Think about what you're not getting in your diet. Do you skip meals? Do you eat on the run? Eat in fast food restaurants? Eat convenience foods, manufactured foods? Make poor choices? Eat for taste, not nutrition? In fact, in the last 24 hours, did you put something in your mouth that you knew wasn't good for you, but you did it anyway? You see, today's lifestyles do not lend themselves to doing what we know we need to do nutritionally. And therein lies the challenge. It's not just the bad stuff we are eating, it's the good stuff we're not eating that are just as much of a problem. Well, what can you do? Because the reality is today, intelligent supplementation is no longer an option. We need to fill in the gaps in our diet so our bodies can do what they're designed to do. Because you see, the answer to today's healthcare crisis is don't get sick. And one of the things we figured out 38 years ago when we were first exposed to Shaklee is if you prevent it, you don't have to cure it. And that's what we have been about for 57 years as a corporation, is how to maintain our health so that we don't end up in the healthcare system. In fact, I think this cartoon from BC pretty well sums it up too. As a doctor, I got to warn you, your obsession with vitamins is a waste of money. Patient says, what do you call 8 years on a prescription drug that keeps me coming back to you? You see, there are 1.5 million serious injuries or deaths per year from medications during hospital stays under the constant care of doctors and nurses. 300,000 deaths per year from properly prescribed medications, and in the last 40 years, 0 deaths from overdoses of vitamins. What makes the most sense? Drugs or vitamins? Interesting question, isn't it? But if you decide that vitamins make sense, that filling in the gaps nutritionally is probably an intelligent thing to do, the next question becomes, well, is there any difference in what's out there in the marketplace? Well, this is a classic example. The rat on the left was raised on whole eggs from birth, the rat on the right from egg beaters, the man-made version of something healthy for you because it doesn't contain all that nasty cholesterol that the eggs contain. Which one looks healthier to you? And not only did the rat on the left look healthier, it actually lived twice as long as the rat on the right. Now, if synthetic foods cannot build health, why would anybody think that synthetic vitamins could actually build health? You see, Shaklee Corporation is the largest natural nutrition company in the country. And natural makes sense. And let me show you why. Here's the top-selling multivitamin Centrum. Here is their label. I have highlighted in red things that you may wonder, what the heck is that doing in a food supplement? I want to point out just a handful of these to you. A couple of artificial dyes that you're putting in a tablet you're going to swallow, never spend any time looking at. What's the point of that? Calcium stearate found in lubricants, surfactants, and soap scum. It's not soluble in water. Your bloodstream is predominantly water. Cupric sulfate used as an herbicide, fungicide, and pesticide. Hypromellose, a semi-synthetic inert viscoelastic polymer. Polyethylene glycol used in antifreeze, ink solvents, lubricants. The list goes on and on and on. And you say to yourself, what has it got to do with health and nutrition? The answer is nothing. It's a cheap, convenient way to make a pretty tablet that holds its shape. And yet, you listen to the ads and they say this is the most tested and doctor-recommended vitamin in the country. Well, it is the most tested. But in the May issue of Consumer Reports, they talked about the fact that yes, it's the most tested, and yet in an 11-year study with doctors taking this product over 11 years, they saw no significant change in the test group or in the control group. In other words, the product did absolutely no good when it came to heart disease and related issues for any of these doctors. Yes, it's tested, but it doesn't work. Well, here's an x-ray taken by a Denver chiropractor of one of his patients who takes Centrum Silver. And here's the one just about ready to exit the rectum that was taken 2 days before the x-ray. This is the one taken the day before the x-ray. And here's the one taken the day of the x-ray. And none of those three have dissolved or broken down. Now, even if there were something good in there, it can't get into your body. But now that you know what's in it, you're probably saying to yourself, well, thank God it didn't break down, because who would want that stuff in their body? Now, it's fascinating to me that Shaklee, the #1 natural nutrition company in the country, has an amazing amount of credibility and history in terms of what we've created over the years that does make a huge difference in people's lives. A while back, Time Life published a book called The 25 Greatest Adventures of All Time. People really pushing the human performance envelope, if you will. We had nothing to do with the publication of that book, and yet 7 of the 25 were fueled by Shaklee Nutrition, including the first American ascent without oxygen, the top of Mount Everest, the Daedalus Project, where they set the human-powered flight record. They didn't just set it, they tripled the previous record. We have been nutritional consultants for the U.S. ski team and the U.S. snowboarding for 30 years. And in the last Winter Games in Vancouver, the U.S. won 28 medals. 21 of those were Shaklee-powered athletes. Had you counted Shaklee athletes as a country, we'd have come in 4th in the world in medal winnings. There are a couple in particular I think are pretty impressive. Here's Gary Hall, who was a type 1 diabetic from birth. Everybody said he could never compete as a world-class athlete, and here he is with the gold medal in the 50-meter freestyle in Athens. Kent Bostic qualified for the U.S. cycling team at age 47. Most cyclists' careers are over at about 32, 33 years old, and at 47 he made the U.S. cycling team. Both of these athletes attribute it to Shaklee nutrition. It really does make a difference. We've worked with NASA since 1993 for the rehydration drink for all of the astronauts. And in fact, here is the last and final space shuttle mission with Commander Mark Kelly and his Shaklee Vitalizer floating right in space next to him. So the next time somebody tells you Shaklee's out of this world, guess what? It really is. But think about this. Let's be a little more rigorous and scientific about this. UC Berkeley School of Public Health for almost 20 years has been doing the National Health and Nutrition Examination Study, where they have compared people who take a multivitamin and people who don't. And our owner went to them and said, would you consider taking a group of Shaklee people who have used Shaklee supplements for 20 years or more and compare them to the other two groups? They agreed to do it, but insisted that they're going to publish the results, whether they're good or bad. Well, some interesting things fell out of the study almost immediately. First of all, according to the American Pharmacy Association, the average American under age 65 has 11.9 prescriptions written per year. Over 65, it's 28 prescriptions per year. Now, there goes from a high in Kentucky of 40, Colorado is 22, Alaska is 18, but the point is the average nationwide is 28. In the Shaklee group, the average age was 63 years old. So you would have expected us to fall somewhere between these two numbers, and yet the average Shaklee person had less than one prescription written per year. Now just think what the financial aspects and ramifications would that be. Because in 2011, as a nation, we spent $227 billion on prescription drugs. If we could eliminate 98% of that by using Shaklee supplements, that means we could save $225 billion of healthcare costs in this country right off the bat. But look at the actual specific results of these three groups. The average age of the people taking no supplements in the study was 53. People taking other brands besides Shaklee was 58. And here we are at 63 years old. So we're 5 years older than this group, 10 years older than this group, and everything else being equal, we should have had more health problems just because we were significantly older as a group. And yet, look at these numbers. Diabetes, 2.9% of the Shaklee population versus 11.1 and 8.5. That's almost 4 times higher and 3 times higher. Heart attacks, 2.5% versus 7.6 and 4.4. That's triple and almost double. Congestive heart failure, 1.4 versus 2.8 and 3.5. The numbers are consistent all the way down. The Shaklee group has dramatically better health than the other two groups, even though we're significantly older. In fact, we are the only company in this industry that has independent clinical proof that our products actually work, and obviously work dramatically better than other brands that people are taking when you consider that diabetes, heart attacks, and all of those are 2 to 3 to 4 times higher than they are in the Shaklee population. How often have you heard the medical reporters on the news in the evening say, boy, if you eat this or you don't eat that, or you do this or you don't do that, you can lower the risk of heart disease by 7% or 11%, and everybody gets all excited. Nobody ever heard of 2 and 3 and 400% differences. This is extraordinary. But something else I want to point out. Notice highlighted in yellow that the people taking nothing have better health in those 4 categories than people using other brands besides Shaklee. In other words, you're better off doing nothing than you are taking the typical vitamins that are out there in the marketplace. And now that you know what is in things like Centrum, which is consistent across 95% of the products sold to you in this country, there's no mystery as to why that's true. There is a huge Shaklee difference. Shaklee people are dramatically healthier. And as a consequence of that landmark study, they looked at what are the nutrients that Shaklee people take on a consistent basis, and they put them all together in one package, and we call it Vitalizer. There's 80 bio-optimized nutrients that are clinically proven to give you a longer, healthier life. And to replace what's in this easy peel-off daily strip, here's the amounts of food you would have to eat to get the same nutrient content of what is in Vitalizer, which is all natural, just like these foods. On top of that, If you wanted to go to the health food store and replace what's in Vitalizer, you'd have to open all of these bottles every day, and of course you're probably going to get predominantly synthetic stuff that isn't going to do you any good. Or would you rather just have one daily strip that covers all of those nutrients for you? It's an extraordinary product. But let's go a little more depth in terms of what is the Shaklee difference. Because what you're going to discover is in our industry there is little or no quality control. Shaklee does 100,000 quality control tests every single year on our products, 278 on just the raw materials, to make sure that there are no contaminants in there. Because there are so many people who are opting for organic products, but organic only defines how they're grown. It doesn't determine what happens to them after they're picked, packaged, and shipped. And there are an amazing array of contaminants in even organic foods. Consumer Reports said EAS Mileplex Original Dark Chocolate Shake and 2 versions of Muscle Milk chocolate drinks had high levels of arsenic, cadmium, and lead. That would never happen in a Shaklee product because we do all of these tests on the raw materials before we start. GNC C4 Extreme contains DMMA. It's a decongestant that can cause heart failure. The FDA has banned it, and yet GNC continues to sell it. Of 58 brands of protein drinks, 25% had steroid contamination and 11% for other banned substances. That's why the U.S. Olympic Committee for years, their party line has been they do not want their athletes using food supplements because they can get banned from their sport because of contamination found in those supplements. And yet for 30 years they've used our products in the U.S. ski team. Why? Because we test for those kinds of things and would never allow them in a Shaklee product. Of the top 10 brands of omega-3s, fish oil if you will, they contain PCBs and or mercury. That includes every major brand you've ever heard of. That would never happen with a Shaklee product because we test. There were carcinogenic fungicides found in ginseng coming into the country. We rejected those crops and refused to sell our top-selling herbal product for 2 years. And yet every single one of those crops we rejected was purchased by other manufacturers and sold to you, the American public. The FDA did a study a couple of years ago on 324 prenatal and children's vitamins. 100% of them contained lead. And 90% of the ingredients used by other manufacturers come from China with no testing for contaminants. And I don't know what your confidence is in the things coming out of China, but mine is not very high. And typically there is no clinical research ever done on their products. And yet Shaklee does clinical research on all of our products before we put them into the marketplace to make sure they are safe, they are effective, they are bioavailable, and they do what we say they're going to do. There is a huge Shaklee difference. And people say, well, you do all that research, it's natural, you do clinical studies, you do quality control, nobody else does, they got to be outrageously expensive. Well, look at this chart. Here are what are considered other high quality vitamins. You've probably heard of most of them. And if you look at the actual cost per day for these multivitamins, the least expensive one up there is Shaklee's multivitamin, Vitalea. And even for Shaklee Vitalea Gold, specially formulated for those of us over 50, it's still less expensive than all but one of the products up here. And most of these are predominantly synthetic. How scary is that? People are spending what they consider good money on good products, and the reality is they have no proof whether or not they can actually do them any good. Shaklee is the only company that does. So for optimum health, a great foundational program starts with our Vitalizer, which came out of that landmark study. One of our protein drinks, either the Shaklee 180 or Energizing Soy. In fact, that's basically been our breakfast for the last 38 years, and we run rings around people half our age. Nutrifuron, which was developed by the discoverer of interferon, Dr. Hajima, who was on our scientific advisory board. It helps strengthen your immune system and make you much less susceptible to disease, sickness, colds, flu, all that kind of thing. And Vivix, which is an extraordinary product currently with 2 clinical studies being done by Dr. Elizabeth Blackburn, who won the Nobel Prize for Medicine a couple of years ago because of its dramatic effect on repairing DNA and slowing down aging at the cellular level. These are extraordinary products. They make an extraordinary difference in people's health. And for what I call the Starbucks factor, you can have great health. Because for the price of a latte and a muffin at Starbucks, you can do what you see here. Now on top of that, Shaklee's taken their expertise and figured out how to apply good nutrition externally in a skincare system called Infusel. It is probably the most rigorously studied and developed skincare line anywhere in this world. It's got 8 patents on it. That's more than any other skincare product line anywhere and everywhere. And it's amazing how effective it is because it is nutrients based. The difference is immediate. Your skin looks dramatically firmer with fewer wrinkles in just 28 days. You'll be astounded at the results. And we could spend hours going into the science behind this, but let me give you an extraordinary example. Here's John Whitaker, the son of a friend of ours, who on May 11th, 2008 was burned by an explosion of a gas grill. He had first and second degree burns. And the first 3 days after the accident, he used vasotraction, which is what the hospitals and the doctors typically put on you, and immediately he started upping his nutrient intake and using the Infusel skincare products 3 times a day to help repair and prevent the scarring. And here he is 15 days later. 15 days with no scarring. There's nothing they do in hospitals that can treat burns that effectively, that dramatically, and that quickly as our skincare system. It is absolutely extraordinary. So if it can do that for John, imagine what it can do for those of us who are not dealing with something as severe as this. And on top of that, we've got a whole movement in this country revolving around green. And yet Shaklee was green when it was just a color. For 55 years, we've made the right choices from an environmental perspective and have developed household cleaning products that are incredibly safe to use, much more effective than what's in the grocery store, much safer. In fact, if you look at these facts on this page, that ought to scare you enough that you never walk down the cleaning aisle in your grocery store again. According to the EPA, most household products are designated hazardous waste. I quote, "Improper disposal of these wastes can pollute the environment and pose a threat to human health." Well, if throwing them away can do that, what if you actually use them? Women who work at home have a 54% higher death rate from all types of cancer than women who work outside of the home, and they attribute it to the constant exposure to household cleaning chemicals. And women who reported the highest combined cleaning product use had double the risk of breast cancer compared to those with the lowest reported use. So I think there's only one of 2 conclusions you can draw. Either quit cleaning your house or change to something that is safe, non-toxic, non-carcinogenic, and effective. It doesn't contain all the chemicals that typical household cleaners have. It works as well or better than anything you've ever used and is dramatically less expensive. People who can use anything they choose Shaklee. These have been featured 5 times on Oprah. She never features anything 5 times. Rachel Ray, The Green Guide, Family Circle. They're used in the White House and the Vice President's residence. Why? Because they are the greenest, safest, most effective, and cost-effective products out there. Let me show you. In what we call our Get Clean Kit right here, which contains virtually anything and everything you'd ever need to clean anything and everything in your house, it replaces all of these cleaners. You'd have to spend $3,400 in the grocery store to get the same cleaning power of what is in this kit for about $150. And on top of that, it will replace this mound of plastic that no longer has to go into the environment. Because Dr. Shaklee figured out years ago that he thought you were probably smart enough you could add water to a bottle. All we sell you is the concentrate. Instead of shipping water all over the country, which is what most cleaners are predominantly made from, we let you add the water. It saves all of this plastic. In fact, since the introduction of this Get Clean Kit in just the last 2.5 years, the amount of plastic not thrown into the environment, if stretched end to end, would go around the earth 28 times. So not only are the products in the bottles safe, but we don't put so much plastic into the environment. It is the equivalent of planting 10 trees when you buy this kit. But there's one special area that I would like to really emphasize. Because the major health problem in our country today is focused around obesity. It turns out that 4 times as many people die from being overweight and obese than die from all types of cancer. Now, if you had a cure for cancer, my guess is you'd want to shout it from the rooftops. But guess what? The health consequences of obesity are 4 times worse than the health consequences of cancer in this country. We need to do something about it. Because 2 out of every 3 people you know need to make a change in their life, and the other third who don't need to lose weight certainly want to stay lean and healthy. And you realize the typical person goes on 4 diets a year? Now, if they worked, it occurs to me they'd only go on 1. But they keep working on it because it's pretty simple. There's thousands of diet programs and products, and you can lose weight on every single one of them because malnutrition is a great weight loss program. But the reality is, do you really want to be skinny and sick, which is what happens with most people who go on these dramatic weight loss kicks, or would you rather be lean and healthy? There's a huge difference. It's not just about the weight, it's also about the health. And from the #1 natural nutrition company in the country, you would expect something that not only works, but is safe and not only maintains your health, but in most cases will increase your health. Because you're going to lose fat, you're going to lose weight, you're going to lose inches, but you're going to retain your lean muscle mass because it contains an ingredient called leucine, which is very unique in any diet program. And leucine triggers your body to maintain lean muscle and only lose the fat. You see, the typical diet, half the weight you lose is muscle. And after you quit the diet, you put it on very quickly again, and as a consequence, it comes all back as fat. But in the clinical studies done with Shaklee 180, not only did people maintain their lean muscle mass over the 12-week period, but they actually increased their muscle mass slightly, while all of the weight they lost was fat. That is the only safe and healthy way to do it. This program is designed, though, to not just lose it, but to keep it off. Because 80% of those that lose weight will gain it all back plus more, typically within 2 years. So Shaklee 180 is designed around 90 days to lose the weight you want and 90 days to learn how to keep it off. And that is probably even the most important part. One of our smoothies contains so much nutrition you would have to buy all of this food just to replace the nutrient value of one of our smoothie drinks, which has been our breakfast for 38 years. And if you go on what we call the turnaround kit, that's the first 90 days, if you're wanting to lose weight, it replaces all your breakfasts and lunches for 30 days, plus snacks in between, and to get the same nutrient content, you would have to buy all of this food. You would spend over $1,200 at the grocery store to get the nutritional equivalent of what is in a turnaround kit. So think of it this way. You're not going to be adding to your budget. You're going to be subtracting from your budget because you're replacing 2 meals a day that you don't have to buy groceries for. You don't have to spend money on things that you know are not going to do you very much good. And look at what the price of good health really is. Here's a Starbucks breakfast for $5.90 that contains 790 calories, 37 grams of fat. A Big Mac meal, $5.99, 920 calories, 48 grams of fat. Versus a Shaklee 180 smoothie for $2.91, including the cost of the non-fat milk, with only 260 calories and 3 grams of fat. That is an extraordinary value to be able to replace a meal for less than $3. But again, it's not just about the weight, it's also about the health. Here's a friend of ours, Linda Bennett, who is 70 pounds healthier, but before she was on 17 prescriptions every single day. Today, she is on no medications at all. And she's saving $800 a month just in the copay for those prescriptions. Here's Scott Mueller. Yes, he lost 15 inches and 33 pounds, which is great, but more important than that, look at his blood work after 4 months on Shaklee 180. His total cholesterol dropped from 203 to 170. His triglycerides from 154 to 73. His HDL, which is the good stuff, went up from 31 to 56, and the LDL, which is the bad stuff, dropped from 141 to 99. It's not just about the weight, it's about your health. And people who use Shaklee 180 get significantly healthier in the process. So literally, changing brands can change your life. And not just your health, but the health of the planet. I hope you will start making better choices in using Shaklee in place of what you're currently using. Spend that same money, just spend it in a different place. But guess what? You can also take your shape and your future in a whole direction because there's an amazing opportunity associated with Shaklee Corporation. And I don't know if you're looking for an opportunity that will give you more freedom, freedom of time, have more finances to enjoy that time. If you're just looking for something of significance where you feel like you're really making a difference in other people's lives, or just want to build some relationships and long-term friendships that are going to enrich your life in very dramatic ways, Shaklee can offer you any and all of those. Because you see, there's a very simple premise that makes Shaklee 180, the weight loss program, or the Lean and Healthy Kit, which has been our breakfast for 38 years, very affordable. Because if you just have 3 friends who join you, and especially when you're trying to lose weight, having the accountability of having your friends around makes you all more successful. But when 3 people join you with the same kit you have, your kit becomes free the following month. That can be true every month from that point in time on. So whether it's the turnaround kit where you're replacing 2 meals a day, or Lean and Healthy where you only replace 1 a day, you can be getting those products free after your first month. And most people I know can afford free. But here's the amazing part. If you choose to share this actively with other people, some extraordinary things can happen. Shaklee supplies all the marketing tools, technology, and support you'll ever need. For magazines and videos and recorded sizzle calls and evites and invitations and product samples and a personal website set up, and on top of that an app for your mobile phone that keeps people on track, keeps them engaged, and helps them be successful. All the tools are there. And if all you did was just help 3 people get their turnaround kit for free, you would generate enough volume that you'd become what we call a director. And as a director, you'll qualify for up to $1,000 in income. You maintain that for 3 months. You get a registration for 2 to the annual conference, which this year is in Nashville. And if you just help 5 people get their turnaround kits for free, you can qualify for a trip for 2 to the San Francisco Bay Area for training and entertainment. If you teach just 1 person how to do what you did, teach 1 person how to be a director, do that by month 6 and maintain it for 3 months. And remember, a director is just somebody who's helped 3 people get their turnaround kits for free. As a director, that's $12,000 a year average income. On top of that, there's a $1,000 fast track bonus, and you'll qualify for a car bonus if you just have 5 people in your own group getting their products free. That's extraordinary when you think about it. Teach 2 people to become directors, the average is $22,000 a year. If you do that within 9 months, there's a $4,000 fast track bonus added to that, and you'll also earn a trip to some place like the Mayan Riviera or a Caribbean cruise. Teach 3 people how to do that. Become a director, and remember, a director is just teaching 3 people how to get their products free. The average income is $51,000 a year. If you do that by month 15, there's $34,000 total fast track bonuses added on top of that. You'll get a higher car bonus and qualify for another trip, and this one is to some place like Bora Bora, Kenya Safari. This year it's Paris. Now put that all together. Here's what you can accomplish in just 15 months. Up to $100,000 in income, including your fast track bonuses, 2 tickets to the global conference, a trip to the San Francisco Bay Area, a trip to someplace like a Caribbean cruise, a trip to someplace like Paris, and a higher car bonus by teaching 3 people and generating the appropriate volume within your group. I can't think of anything else on this planet that you can accomplish all that in 15 months by working hard and doing something as simple as sharing Shaklee 180 over and over and over again. But most people aren't going to stop there. What if you teach 6 people how to do what you've done? have the appropriate group volume, and the average income is 200,000 plus a year, you can earn an additional $50,000 in fast track bonuses if you do that within the next 3 years, a luxury car bonus, and then a VIP trip to San Francisco. It's amazing what's available. It all starts with what we call a Gold Plus pack. It's a business in a box for $599. It's actually worth over $850. It contains your own turnaround kit for your own weight loss success story, plus all the tools you're ever going to need to build a business. This is what allowed me to go from being an aerospace engineer to a Shaklee entrepreneur to being semi-retired at the ripe old age of 38, and for the last 29 years we've had a six-figure income in this company, semi-retired, while the rest of the economy has been in the toilet. That's extraordinary when you think about it. And there's so many exciting things going on right now with Shaklee 180 that we decided maybe we'll just come out of retirement for a while and just have some more fun and see what happens. But look at somebody like Al Hagerman. I love this quote from Al. After 43 years in Shaklee and $23 million in income, I am making retirement at the rate of $3,000 a day. That's $3,000 a day retired. Do you think Al is too concerned about what's going to happen to Social Security? I don't think so. That's an extraordinary opportunity for anybody who's willing to put in the time and put in the effort to create something of significance. Because it's not just about success, it's about helping solve the number one health issue in this country and dramatically improving the health of hundreds, if not thousands of people. While you're achieving your goals, you can help them achieve theirs. So I hope you'll join us. If it's time to take your shape, your health, and your future in a whole new direction, make sure you spend some time with the person who invited you to watch this and really learn the nuts and bolts and what it's about. And I hope to get to see every single one of you at the top.